Hello, and welcome back to Mellohi, a Dream SMP podcast. This is episode 18, and today we'll be discussing the Manberg and the Bench Trio. As always, we refer to the characters by name and specify when we're talking about the writers. And alright, so today we'll be doing another listener suggestion, and it was someone who asked us to talk about the Manberg and sort of why a lot of the fandom tends to see it as good and character dreams just evil.
And oh boy, did they pick the wrong people to talk about it, because we all hate Manberg so much.
I mean, I think we talked about it in a previous episode, like, the idea of Manberg as, like, a community, that's alright, but the fact that they had to make it a country and, like, exclude certain people from it is kind of what's wrong with a lot of people.
It's just built on lies.
It's the principle.
This is why I call it Minecraft Brexit. Because basically it was a bunch of British people saying, actually, despite the fact that we're in like this thing where anyone can go anywhere within this area, we actually don't like people of a certain nationality that's not ours, of any nationality that's not ours, coming into our area, of this shared area. So we're gonna like kick you out. We're gonna say you're not allowed to come in here.
But we're still going to reap all of the benefits of being a part of
Yeah, we're still going to have all the benefits of being a part of the same group as everyone else.
Yep. Right.
And then immediately after they do that and they leave, and also the person opposing them, the people opposing them, kind of let them do it, but under like the condition, like Dream's whole thing was he was going to let them be independent anyway, but only as long as, like, they'd still be part of the Dream SMP. He was just going to let them think they were independent because it didn't really matter that much to him because he knew he couldn't talk them down.
Yep.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then after that happens, everything immediately goes wrong. And everything that they said was going to be, we'll sort it out later, and then it just immediately hits them.
Right.
So basically what I'm saying is, Manberg is Brexit, and character dream represents Angela Merkel. That's what I'm saying.
I think part of the thing to understand when you're like talking about Manberg, and specifically how they got the reputation as the good guys, and the Dream Team and the SMP members got the reputation as the bad guys, you have to kind of look at, and this is going to turn into a giant rant, so I'm really sorry, but you have to look at Dream and Wilbur's relationship specifically, and a lot about Wilbur's character, because he's the one who decides to
I think a lot of it
Manberg.
summed up in like this one Wilbur quote, and I might be slightly misquoting this because I don't have like a thing in front of me. Actually, wait, no, I might. Give me 1 second. I might have taken a screenshot of this a little while ago.
Alright, well, you look for that while I rant about how much I hate Wilbur. So the thing is that the reason... The character. Although I have my issues with actual Wilbur because he fucking... What the hell is Ghostbur lore, man? You make me so angry as a writer. What are you doing? But regardless of that, let's talk about character Wilbur who I have had a very... let's just say I haven't liked him for a while. I really hated Manberg era Wilbur, especially because I didn't understand what his whole deal was or why he was doing things. But then I got to read an amazing thread by Call Me Apple that clarified that Wilbur's character, the fundamental thing to understand about at least early Wilbur, is that he doesn't have a super high opinion of himself, and he's desperate for people to love him, accept him, and look to him. So when you're looking at like early Manberg, I think a big part of like understanding why Dream got the reputation as the evil guy and Manberg was good is because Wilbur has this issue with believing that he as a person is not enough. Like he is not just him as Wilbur, so it is not enough to make people love him.
Like,
and
when people don't like Manberg, it's not because they think that like character Wilbur is just evil, and that like we don't think that a lot of us don't think he came onto the server just looking for power's sake.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Like, he's his own character, he's complicated, he's morally grey like all the other characters are.
Yeah.
He's got his own reasons, like he wanted power, but he's got his reasons for that.
He's like that schoolyard bully that thinks pushing other people down makes him look cool.
It's not even just that. It's literally, I think, when you're looking at early Wilbur, a big part of it is that he's jealous. So
he is.
He's especially jealous of character Dream specifically, because character Dream has what he wants. Dream is respected by others. He has a bunch of friends on the server. Pretty much, I mean, within reason, everyone listens to him and they look up to him to some extent. Unless you're talking about, like, Tommy, who is the one exception, and is the one exception for Wilbur as well, because Wilbur is the one person who can get Tommy to listen to him. But Wilbur wants what Dream has. He wants to be the person that people respect and look to for answers. But the problem is that Wilbur isn't a fighter. Wilbur's a very charismatic character, but he's not a good leader. He's not a good general. He's not a good fighter. He doesn't know how to do any of that. What he's got going for him is charisma. And the problem is that he doesn't think that he as a person is good enough to make people love him. He's got extreme affection issues, based off of at least how I see it. And so when he makes his drug empire, I'm pretty sure it's because he wants power, but it's because he believes power brings love, and power brings status and affection. And
power brings
and I
that
think
cool
that's something that you can see very clearly in,
exactly,
like, now that he's revived, in that, like, immediately he's seeking out situations where he's the one in power and he has, like, underlings, whether that's, like,
he's
like Tommy.
It's weird because
Our
current, like,
Ronbu.
Wilbur after being revived is such a weird thing to look at, because I have a pretty good idea of, like, what L'Manberg Wilbur's deal was, is that he wants affection, he wants blah blah blah. So in order to do that, he has to get himself into a position of power, because he believes power brings respect, and he wants to be, he wants that respect. Wilbur, after being revived and during Pogtopia, seems to have fallen into this slip of realizing that he's not a good person. Like, I think he didn't realize during L'Manberg that, like, a lot of the things he was
actually
doing...
the whole, like, people like him when he has power thing definitely contributed a lot to his spiral in Pogtopia.
Yeah, so...
in the fact that he was voted out.
Yeah.
More people wanted Schlatt to win and Quackity to win than wanted him to win.
Yeah, exactly. During Pogtopia, he loses his position for one thing, but he also, which we could have a whole discussion about how bad of a leader Wilbur Soot is. Oh my god, he had like
these moments where he did like this.
He's so smart, but he's so dumb. And it's the worst thing ever to watch him in a leadership position. I mean, that's the whole thing.
I think character Wilbur has talked about his character being, like, naive.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to lead a country.
And not realizing that the Dream SMP would react as strongly as they did to him creating a number.
He's an idiot! He's a total idiot!
It's kind of interesting because it creates a contrast between, like, him and character Dream, because obviously character Dream was going to do that, because his whole thing is that if someone does something that, like, hurts him or harms something that he sees himself as being responsible, like the piece of the server, he will react in extremes.
Right.
Because he believes it's the best way to stop that thing from happening again.
Yeah. So, like, Wilbur's not a good leader. He's not a good general. He's very naive when it comes to how he thinks other people are going to react. So, like, let's look, like, if you're talking about, like, the Declaration of Independence, Wilbur goes into that with a very strong, hard stance of the fact that this is happening, nothing you say or do is going to change it.
There's no compromise.
He fully expects, there's no compromising, it's just, Dream, we're emancipating ourselves from the SMP, we are declaring ourselves our own country, this is what's happening. And he fully expects Dream and everyone else to just go along with that.
Yep.
And then Dream's like, it's like, you're gonna do this regardless.
Yep.
So if I want to stop you, I have to stop you with force. There's no compromising. There's no discussion here. There's no room for that. It's you're either declaring and I do nothing, or you're declaring and I fight you over it.
And there is no.
All right, here I found the Wilbur quote, which I think shows, like, his early relationship with character Dream. Look, Dream, and this is from I think it's from your quotebot, actually. Sweet.
Very nice.
Look, Dream isn't our enemy, he's our neighbor, but we are succeeding from his tyrannical rule. And then Tubba asks, what's tyrannical mean? And then he says, big words that won't be used in That's what we use in war.
Yeah, Wilbur's not a fighter. Wilbur's got charisma, but he doesn't have...
He's a talker.
He is a sweet talker. He's a compulsive liar.
Yeah. And the thing is that during L'Manberg, I don't even think, like, it's easy for us to look at it and be like, okay, so he has to know that this is, like, a shitty thing to do, right? That's just gonna cause problems. But honestly, I don't think he did, and that's the naive part of him, is that he thinks that, yeah, sure, people might be a little upset about it, but it'll just work out, it's fine. He doesn't think anyone's gonna fight him over it.
The thing is, most people were okay with it, on the most part.
It was really just that they were banning the Americans.
That's the only issue everyone had.
Initially, Sapnap and Tubbo were annoyed that Tommy and Wilbur were stealing from them, but they got over that pretty quickly. And when Dream first saw the van, he had, like, no issue with it. It was purely that one rule. And it's also kind of funny when people are bringing it up, they're like, who are, like, very pro-L'Manberg, they say, oh, well, like, Punz had a house that was, like, twice as big as L'Manberg. Why didn't Dream have a problem with that? Because Punz never made, like, an arbitrary rule, like, only people with blonde hair can come into my house. And that's one of the main reasons I would compare, like, people compare L'Manberg to colonialism, and I disagree with that, but I also disagree with a lot of the people who disagree with that, because they have the most stupid reasons for it. Like, they're saying, like, a person from the country that's known for colonizing half the world is for some reason incapable of writing a story about colonization.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
Or like the fact that the people that they, in this situation where L'Manberg actually was colonialism, were colonizing, were Americans somehow means it doesn't count. Like, there is this whole weird idea on the internet and in social media that if you are pale-skinned European, or like of European descent, it means you are naturally immune to colonization. Like, sorry, I'm Irish. It doesn't work that way.
I'm sorry, the color of my skin and nationality doesn't prevent us from being invaded and colonized by other countries.
So, okay, but going back to the problems with... We should probably answer the actual question I asked. But first, the problem with L'Manberg, and the reason that Dream had a problem with it, wasn't that, you know, they were making their little own community, because Punz did that. He had no problem with that. But the issue with L'Manberg is that they were doing it in a way that said they decided who could come in and out, and they also weren't going to follow the 3 rules of the SMP as it was. They said that they weren't going to follow any of the rules, you know, the no griefing, no stealing, no going to the end or whatever. But those rules. They said that they were not going to be privy to this. Yeah. This is their own server. They don't have to follow any of those rules.
I think this is also just the way, just because of how he's interacted with Wilbur has colored his interactions with L'Manberg as a whole, and he sees L'Manberg as delusional idiots, basically. I
mean, they kind of are.
Yeah, they kind of are, is what he tells Skeppy. And a big part of this is because when he's confronting Wilbur, the first time he meets Wilbur, when he's confronting Wilbur about L'Manberg, Wilbur sat there and is like, okay, L'Manberg's a thing, there's no compromise, it's happening whether you like it or not. And then Dream's like, so you don't need anything that's outside of your borders, right? And then he's like, yeah, we don't need anything outside of our borders. And Dream continuously questions Wilbur, like, have you thought this through, man? Bruh, dude. Like, he talks a little...
And he hasn't.
Yeah, and Wilbur hasn't. And Dream's just...
That's the problem with Wilbur.
And Dream's just... he's just talking about how, I'm trying to remember, like, this one specific quote that I can't seem to recall at the moment, and it happens in that conversation when they first meet, and he's like, oh, alright, so when Wilbur talks about how they're just gonna ignore the Dream SMP rules, Combat's like, so what if we just ignored your rules and we come in? And he's like, and Wilbur goes like, no, you can't do that. That's not how it works, right? You can't just say you're not gonna follow the rules of a server.
Wilbur is... So... like, that conversation in particular, because I think that's also the conversation where Dream asks Tubbo if he's okay with this, because all of Tubbo's stuff is in the Dream SMP lands, and Wilbur saying that, oh yeah, after these walls are up, they won't have to need anything outside of them.
The bit where Tommy and Tubbo try to claim dual citizenship, And then Wilbur's like, no, we don't do dual citizenship.
And that seems like it's another example of Wilbur being, kind of like an attention-y, jealous little bitch. Where he's like, he doesn't share. Like, he wants everyone to respect him. And if he has people, with slightly crossed alliances where they're still trying to stay tied to the DSMP, he's like, well, that means that I'm not gonna have
Actually,
their
wait. I just realized that the dual citizenship might actually be connected to the whole Brexit parallel.
Yeah, probably.
Because there's definitely some stuff, because EU members can have dual citizenship for any country within the EU, I believe. Although I think some are a bit more stringent with it. But then there's issues now with Brexit and with the UK leaving, and how people might have to give up one of their citizenships if they have like both British and like I think German is the example I heard about. So it's kind of funny that actually supports the whole Lemberg's a parallel to Brexit theory.
It's at least a little bit influenced by
real world politics.
By Brexit. I'm pretty sure it's probably also a little inspired by American politics too, because I'm pretty sure Wilbur drops a quote like, we'll build a wall and make the Americans pay for it.
He drops a Trump quote.
Although I think that stuff, I don't know a huge amount about American politics aside from the general stuff you pick up on the internet.
Yeah, but I think
so I don't see many parallels.
I think like quotes like that though kind of make it seem more supportive of the fact that Wilbur's trying to reflect like actual politics maybe a little bit.
And then there's actually, and it's really interesting because we were talking earlier about how he created for power, is that is actually confirmed by like writer Wilbur. A few months ago he was on a stream with Ronbu and he was talking and he basically said something along the lines of, and I might quote this slightly wrong but I'm pretty sure this is how I remember it. Or you could take the Wilbur Sut route, you could create something, and because you think it's important, like, because you say it's important, other people think it's important even when it's really not, and then your dad stabs you and then you die.
Yep, that's roughly what he says, yeah. So, like, definitely...
So he's very clearly referring to character Wilbur there.
Yeah, and I don't know how much character Wilbur's even, like, self-aware of that, because I think ultimately... and part of this comes from some other quotes that he says after Lemberg's created when he's talking to Nikki about Eret and how he is like, I don't want you spending time with Eret, and he makes a really specific point about Eret, other than calling him handsome and saying he has great hair and that he's tall British.
Nice deep
he says
voice.
that, and he's a king. With a nice deep voice. He points out that Eret's a king and Wilbur's just a president. Wilbur can get voted out, but Eret's authority is fact. Like, you can't take that away from him. Apparently you can if you're dreaming, but he makes a very specific point as Eret's leadership position, like his position of power, is something good about him.
Yeah. That
would make people attracted to him and want to spend time with him and want to be friends with him. And Wilbur thinks that his is inferior to his. So you can definitely tell that Wilbur associates power with people liking him or wanting to spend time with him. And he associates those two things together. And he associates specifically Lemberg with himself. He's basically created a country that to him represents people's friendship with him or people's loyalty to him and how much they care about him.
I think one of the most
which is incredibly unhealthy
about character Wilbur is interpretations of him tend to swing very strongly in either one or the other direction. Yeah. There's the people who see it as, oh, he never did anything wrong. And then in Pogtopia, he got mental illness, and everything he ever did that was evil was because he was mentally ill, so can all be excused because mental illness.
SMH.
Or they go he's an evil mastermind manipulator since the beginning, which isn't really the case either.
Isn't there, I think there's like a theory that like, oh, when Wilbur was brought back, it was only the bad part of him that was brought back, because Ghostbur was the good part, which I disagree with because it really messes with this whole characterization.
Ghostbur in general is
and would make him a really boring character if he was like only the negative parts of Wilbur.
Ghostbur is everything everyone wants Wilbur to be.
Ghostbur's incredibly confusing just as a concept, because none of the other ghosts are like that, and I don't want to talk about Ghostbur.
Honestly,
because
I just kind of wish that writer Wilbur didn't do the whole thing.
Oh my god, yes.
Like, I think it would make more sense to have them merge.
Yeah, so, okay.
Or to at least have them be merging, because we do know that Wilbur now has some memories of Ghostbur, or was like, had some sort of connection that allowed him to experience part of what Ghostbur experienced.
Do you honestly want to know what I thought was going to happen? And I still think it would have been a really cool thing to pull, is that around the time that Tommy was setting up everything, and we should get back to Lemmenberg after this because we still haven't answered their original question. But around the time that Tommy was setting up his watchtower, and he was talking with Ronbu, and he was talking with Tubbo, and he was talking with Ghostbur about the prison, Ghostbur said some really iffy things, and I remember a lot of people around that time were saying, wow, Ghostbur's acting really suspicious. And because of that, for the longest time, up until Ghostbur actually died and Wilbur was revived, I thought we were gonna get, like, some, like, imposter among us shit, where after the failed attempt to, like, unite, bring back Wilbur before, where we got sort of the Glatbur thing, where he was, like, part Schlatt, I honestly thought that that was gonna play into this thing, where Ghostbur was actually remembering his life as Wilbur, and was remembering all the shit that he did, and was remembering how terrible he was, for one thing, but also a lot of his, like, more malicious goals. But this was back when I thought that Wilbur was a total sneaky bastard, which he still is, but now I thought he was an evil bastard at the time. But I honestly thought what was going to happen is that Tommy's going to go in with Ghostbur, or something's going to happen, and Ghostbur's going to flip. And instead of being, you know, nice, sweet,
really
innocent Ghostbur, he was gonna be full-blooded, I blew up a nation and I'm proud of that, Wilbur. And I thought that was what was gonna happen. And then we got fucking just Revivebur, and Ghostbur still exists but is in limbo, which is still the stupidest thing ever. I'm sorry, content creator Wilbur, what the fuck? I'm calling your writing shit for this, because what the I need to take a deep breath. Ghostbur makes me mad. I don't want to talk about it. Let's go.
Okay, back to Lemmenberg.
We should answer the actual Lemmenberg question.
So, I think the main reason people see it that way is because, A, it's been a while, and people just don't go back to watch the VODs or the videos, or they just hear the summary, or they're already going in with the bias. Of like, oh, someone's told them, like, Tommy's the protagonist, or, oh, I really like Lemmenberg, and they've read, like, fanfiction or something. So they're already going in with a pro-Lemmenberg bias. Yeah. Because in the second half of season 1, the story really did shift a lot more to focusing on Lemmenberg.
Yeah.
And Dream was far more of a side character for a lot of the second half of season 1.
So, like, the biggest part, I believe, though, is the save stuff. What remained of the VODs and who was streaming, and because nowadays you have all of Tommy's VODs, you have all of Wilbur's VODs, you might have most of Dream's VODs, because Dream was still popular enough that people saved his VODs back then, but you don't get Arid's VODs. Arid's VODs are lost. You don't get people like
I think Finding Joy actually did part of trying to like spice together an old Arid VOD using clips.
That's how lost
from Arid's stream and from other people's streams.
You've lost so much history. You've lost Tubbo VODs.
Yeah. There's quite a few, like, there's a lot of VODs from the early SMP that are just gone, which is really sad. But I think that is part of the bias. So, like, new people coming in are gonna see early Lemmenberg and that history through either, if they really want to, they can go watch VODs, or they're more likely to just go and watch, like, the status animation, or Tommy's videos that he did about when he started playing the Dream SMP with, like, the disc scores and stuff, which leave out a lot of context. Or Wilbur's videos, or VODs, or they're gonna read recaps. And there is, like, a very heavy Lemmenberg bias in the fandom already. But the other thing is to consider is that even back during those, like, first streams when they were first happening, the Lemmenbergians, especially Wilbur, definitely worked to create
underdog story.
Well, not a bias, but they came up. Wilbur had to make a reason.
I think people forget with the Discord that, like, half of like writer Tommy's whole like internet persona is like being enemies with
And being
Dream.
super annoying.
And he's like, this is like a consistent thing that he does. Like his whole thing on SMP Earth was being enemies with Technoblade.
Yeah.
Like that's his thing. Like he finds like basically like, the most popular person and goes against them because people like underdogs.
Yeah.
So it creates fun content.
Yeah, and obviously in his videos, then he's gonna make Dream the bad guy. So like, we as new people coming into it are gonna be like, oh, okay, Dream's the bad guy in this situation, because to the Manbergians, they're the good guys.
Yep.
And part of that is because, and like this was, I don't think this was an intentional like, oh, let's make Dream like the worst person to have resist.
It was just,
but I think
something
part of it
to
goes
fight
back
against.
to. It was something to fight over. It was something that gave Wilbur an excuse to make a country and put himself in a position of power because his drug empire didn't work.
Yeah.
The drug empire was his first plan. That didn't work because Sapnap and a bunch of other people turned on him. So he's like, okay.
I think, specifically it was Sapnap and Tubbo.
Sapnap and Tubbo. He's like, okay.
And it was kind of, this is actually, I think it's around the first time you get the actual, like, only Europeans thing.
Yeah.
Is because both Tubbo and Sapnap come back and want to join them.
And Sapnap's not allowed to.
But they let Tubbo join, but not Sapnap.
Yeah. But it's all that stuff, and then the fact that like Wilbur's first plan didn't work. So he was like, okay, new plan. I want to be in a position of power because that'll make people respect me. That'll make people like me and want to be around me. Because he has this weird obsession with the fact that power He's like you know how people say like money doesn't bring you happiness, it just brings you like fake friends.
That's him.
Wilbur's a strong believer in that, but he wants the fake friends because at least then he has friends because he doesn't think people will hang out with him otherwise, which is really sad. That kid needs some well, he's not a kid, that's an old man. He was like 30 at the time. In the lore, he's like 30.
He's 40 now.
Why is this a 30-year-old strategy to
Honestly,
get friends,
have we mentioned, I think we've
50.
mentioned this before, but the whole thing where people will claim that, like, Tommy was 9 during the war, like, that makes canonically, like,
12.
13.
Like,
and makes Wilbur, like, the only
Wilbur
adult
is the
who's, like,
only
which
adult.
just makes Wilbur pathetic. Like, what the hell?
Honestly, that would make a hilarious AU, actually, where they're all, like, young kids and, like, early teens. And the oldest person is Wilbur, who's just
He's
like
a grown-ass adult getting his butt
like
kicked.
late teens, early 20s. And he's just this guy who's trying to, like, he tries to start a war against a 13-year-old. That would be hilarious.
And then he gets his butt kicked by the 13-year-old.
If Wilbur's character, he's saying that he was 30 at the time, so what is his problem? Someone get him why is a 30-year-old fighting a bunch of teenagers and like 21-year-olds? What is your deal? Get help. We interrupt your regularly scheduled Mellohi episode to bring you the best part of any episode, the Mellohi Spotlight. In case you're new, this Spotlight section is where we shout out a content creator in the Minecraft YouTuber and Dream SMP fandoms to let you, wonderful viewers, discover new and amazing people. We know that a big part of what makes our fandom so incredible is how many talented people we have creating amazing content in it. And we want to share that with you. This week, we're talking about an amazing YouTuber and animator, Squiddo. I actually first stumbled upon Squiddo a couple months ago from her Bed Wars videos, and I was pleasantly surprised to find a pretty hilarious and zany YouTuber who I've enjoyed ever since. And I know, you're probably saying to yourself, but Mellohi Spotlight, that doesn't sound like a Dream SMP content creator, that sounds like a Minecraft YouTuber. And that's where I tell you you're wrong! Because Squiddo isn't only an amazing YouTuber in her own right, which to be honest is definitely enough for anyone here to be interested anyways, but she's also an animator who has made several hilarious animations of Dream SMP moments. The You're Out of Touch Tubbo animation is still the funniest thing I've seen come out of the disc finale. I will not change my mind about that. And also, she's got some different animations of Dream, Tommy, and all kinds of other things, and a lot of her Bed Wars videos actually make reference to Dream SMP content creators too. Overall, Squiddo just has a fantastic sense of humor, and if you want more Minecraft content in your life, then you should 100% go and check her out at The Real Squiddo, which is spelled Squiddo, on Twitter, or just Squiddo on YouTube. Also, Vatch Squiddo for the Dream SMP. Before we get back to the episode, if you have any content creators that you think deserve the spotlight, make sure to let us know by either dropping a comment below one of our YouTube videos or through our Twitter. The more amazing content creators you share with us, the more amazing content creators we can share with everyone else. Catch you all next time. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Bye! What was I talking about before all that?
Lemamberg. And I apologize that we've been talking just so much about Wilbur, but you really can't talk about Lemamberg without talking about Wilbur, because those two are just so intrinsically connected, because Wilbur created Lemamberg for his own benefit, and looking into why he's doing that really helps show that Lemamberg wasn't a good country.
No, it was built on lies.
It was built on lies.
I think like the most democratic president was Slash, and he's the one who's most commonly considered a dictator. So I mean, like, that tells you a lot about the opinions of Lemamberg in this fandom. Yeah.
But,
like the guy who was actually elected in, and like the only person he had publicly executed was technically part of his country.
Yeah,
and
technically Schlatt never did anything illegal.
Yeah, technically he never did anything illegal.
Yeah. Even Wilbur's president did illegal stuff because he was trying to run a rigged election. Like, Schlatt never did anything illegal. Everything he did was technically within his power and right. I don't think Tubbo ever did anything.
And even in, like, the alternate version of Season 1, the Season 1 script, has, like, Wilbur and Tommy falsely imprisoning Slash.
Yeah.
Because they accuse him of, like, creating fake votes. When in canon, he never did that. Fundy did.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, okay, so if your view of Wilbur is that he was a good guy who had a mental breakdown and then came back a little bent because of his time in limbo, you're wrong, because he was never a good guy.
He had mental problems way before that. They just got worse.
He was always a bad person. Like, everyone in SMP is a bad person. Just some of them are worse than others. But, like,
I mean, the way I see it, none of them are bad people or good people. They're just people who make really bad decisions very often.
Fair. That's fair. But, okay, so to answer your question, person who kindly asked this question in the first place, why do we think that Dream is evil and Lemamberg was good? Is because Wilbur needed an excuse to start a country so that he could get power, so that he could have friends, because he believes that the only way for him to have friends, or for people to actually like him, is if he has power over them.
Yep.
More or less sums it up.
Okay, so actually that was another question. The second part, they were wondering if we could talk about Tommy and Tubbo's relationship.
Okay, it's so sad.
It's not the healthiest friendship.
It's better than most. Let's be honest.
Out alright, but then over time stuff happened and stuff kind of got a bit bad. But I think it's kind of past the worst of it. I think they're both just like 70% more traumatized now. And they kind of like, I think they have to figure that out before they can have like a healthy friendship again.
Like, this is why we don't like Lemamberg. Lemamberg divides people. The reason why, a big part of the reason why the relationship is the way it is now is because Tubbo was forced to put Lemamberg above his friendship with Tommy. He was forced to put the people of his country above the interests of one individual. Right?
Yeah.
And that just affected him a lot. It affected both of them a lot. Like, Tubbo did not want to do that, but he didn't have a choice. And Tommy, I don't know if Tommy's forgiven Tubbo for this, or if he's just...
I think so. I think they've sort of reconciled over it for the most part. Or at least it's not something they bring up.
Yeah.
I'm sure if they had like a heated argument, he would bring it up and be like, well, you exiled me. And Tubbo will be like, yeah, well, you almost got me killed over a pair of discs. So guess we're even. But I don't know. Tommy and Tubbo's relationship is, on the one hand, it's like it's very wholesome, because it's very much like a do or die relationship, at the very least on Tubbo's part, if not both of them. Where Tubbo, for a majority of the SMP, Tubbo did what Tommy said. Like, not in like a I'll do whatever you say kind of manner, but in like a like Tommy's like, okay, let's go do this, and Tubbo will be like, oh yeah, sure, okay, I'll come along. And like, so they always that, which I think is how Tubbo got the reputation of just being sort of like Tommy's sidekick. Even though he's really not, Tommy's sidekick.
I think honestly some of the best character moments from Tubbo have actually come when he's not with Tommy.
Exactly, yeah, definitely. Tubbo with Tommy tends to follow to do whatever Tommy says. And I think that's partially because Tommy has a very, like, you know, up in your face, like, listen to what I say kind of
He has a very self-centric view of the world. He likes to put his own interests before those of other people and even those of his friends. Like,
and we've talked about, I think this is another thing we've talked about before, he's not selfish, but he is self-centered, and he has difficulty looking at things from perspectives other than his own,
which is why,
or noticing when his actions might hurt
exactly.
others.
He has trouble understanding other people, where other people are coming from. So like,
and that's like one of his main character flaws. It's one of the things that makes him an interesting character.
Exactly.
So like,
and it'll be really interesting to see him like move past that character flaw a bit and realize that he's being really insensitive to Tubbo when he talks about like his own trauma. And dismisses Tubbo's own trauma because he doesn't express it in the same way. And that would be, I think, a really important step into their friendship being more like it once was. Is Tommy acknowledging that.
Because, like, I feel like the self-centric view has only gotten worse because of the events he's gone through. Because even recently, in times of peace, he hasn't... It says a little while ago by now, but he didn't want to use netherite armor. He just wanted to use iron stuff. And so he's going around gathering all this dirt to fill in the hole in the bottom of his house. And then Tubbo comes in with his netherite shovel and does it really quickly. And then Tom's like, no. Take off your netherite armor. Stop using that netherite shovel. Use an iron shovel instead. I don't want you to... You're helping me, but I don't want you to help me in that way because it makes me uncomfortable. And he doesn't consider that perhaps Tubbo does it because wearing armor makes him more comfortable, or that he prefers using another shovel because it's faster.
Yeah. Which, I mean, there's always like a bit of compromise in every friendship, right? So like, it's not unreasonable for at one point him to be like, hey, I want to do this, like, I want to do this the slow way, and Tubbo's like, oh, okay, fine. But
he pushes that.
There's not a lot of give and take in their friendship, you know? It's a lot of Tommy taking and a lot of Tubbo giving. Yeah, and it's not to say that, like, it's a terrible friendship or, like, Tommy's a terrible friend, because he's not. It's just that Tommy,
it's
again,
just that
has
they
that
both
very...
have just, like, a ton of trauma. That just completely messed up their relationship.
It's
just...
Where they used to be great friends.
Yeah.
Tommy has a very sort of, like, self-centric point of view on the world, and Tubbo's a little more...
And to be honest, it's not like Tubbo's like completely innocent in that.
No, he's not.
He is really reserved. He does not like talking about his feelings.
Exactly.
At all.
It's a combination of Tommy being unable to understand points of view that are different from his if it's not explained in a certain way, and Tubbo not saying anything or talking about his feelings at all and keeping it all to himself.
I think a good way to describe it is Tommy tends to have like this very aggressive response to his trauma, where he's trying to like aggressively avoid anything to do with it, get rid of anything that reminds him of it. While on the other hand, Tubbo has more of an avoidance, where he'll avoid talking or thinking about it.
Yeah. It's I think it's also another one of those like give or take things. Like Tommy shows everyone what his problems are. Like Tommy makes sure that everyone knows why he's upset when he's upset. He makes it everyone else's problem. Tubbo doesn't like to make problems for other people. Tubbo's generally just like a person who doesn't like to cause, like, he's a little bit chaotic, sure, but he doesn't like to like ruin other people's days. He doesn't like to bring other people down.
He's a very defensive character. Like even when he makes nukes, they're with the intent of being there for defense, of being a threat that will stop people from trying to fight him in the first place.
Yeah, in general, Tebo's just, like, he doesn't like hurting other people. He's a very much, like, a for the people kind of guy. Like,
he kind of had to, like, he had to be pressured by the Butcher army into going against Technoblade.
He generally doesn't like to cause, like even during, like, Schlatt's presidency,
he's a bit of a
he
doormat.
was like, well, things have been... Yeah, he's a bit of a doormat. He's like, things are being, like,
I think it's kind of interesting in that how it kind of parallels Technoblade's character.
Kind of?
In that they both definitely have this very sort of avoidance response, like I was saying earlier, to trauma.
Oh, yeah.
And they both also, like, fall to peer pressure a good bit.
Yeah. It's, but, like, I think you can kind of see it in, like, you get a very good idea of, like, what Tubbo values when he's president, because he's very much, like, the person who's kind of tries to be there for other people. Like, yeah, he's a little chaotic, and yeah, he causes some pain, and yeah, he kills Fundy once or twice for fun, whatever, as a joke. But he generally likes to be there. He's very much a giving person. Like, he tries to do the best he can for everyone. And when he's president, that shows up in the fact that he's trying to do best for everyone in L'Manberg, whereas previous, it was usually Tommy was, like, the highest priority. So he was trying to do best by Tommy. And then when he was president, it was trying to do best by everyone. I honestly think that he was one of the best presidents because he didn't care about himself. He cared about what was best for the country. He didn't care about what was best for individuals. He cared about what was best for everyone.
Yeah, he was the only president who was president for the people and not for himself.
Yeah. Tubbo's that's a good way of putting it. Tubbo's just a very, like, for the people type of person.
Might have been the most democratic president, but I definitely think Tubbo was the best one.
Yeah. He was very much, like, honestly, I'd say he was, other than how he got elected, he was very democratic in the way that he led, at least, because he made sure that everyone had an opinion, and
although,
he heard them, even though
unfortunately,
he was the final
that
decision.
kind of let them talk over him a lot.
I'll be honest, I talk about how L'Manberg broke their friendship because Tubbo was forced to put L'Manberg above Tommy, but I have to say, I just love that scene. Because it's the first time, like, the entire time leading up to that sort of snapping point is everybody's talking over him. No one is listening to what he's saying. They're all going on about how they can threaten Dream into doing what they want, or that they should get Technoblade to come in and help kill Dream after they've ruined Technoblade's base and killed all his cows. And, like, Tubbo's there going, guys, wait, stop, this is a terrible idea, I don't think we should do this, hey guys, we should stop and think about this, guys, please, stop, and then just on that wall, well, not on that wall, but just when he goes to meet up with, when they finally actually do meet up with Dream to discuss what to do about Tommy, considering he just literally blackmailed Dream the other day, but what to do about what kind of punishment they should give Tommy, and everybody in his cabinet is yelling about how they should go and fight Dream after they've already lost a huge war, and Tubbo just, like, goes, okay, that's it, I am done with everybody and all of you just talking over me, just taking away my power. Like, you guys are disregarding my position of power here, my authority, you're undermining my authority. And it was just such a powerful moment, because it's really the first time he stood up for himself, even though it was kind of standing up for what he thought was best for L'Manberg.
And I think that's also the moment that sort of starts sort of the splitting apart of Tommy and Tubbo, because before that, most of the time, it's Tommy calling the shots whenever they're doing something together, with Tubbo often adding, like, feedback.
Yeah.
But this is the point where they're just in complete disagreement.
Yeah.
And Tubbo just puts his foot down and goes, no, I'm making the decision this time. This is what we're going to do. And obviously, Tommy isn't used to that, so he goes off and does something kind of stupid anyway.
Yeah.
And then obviously Exile arc happens and they don't see each other for a good few weeks. Although actually I think the fact that Tubbo didn't visit Tommy during exile is actually probably, I think, related to what I was saying earlier about avoidance. In that he was avoiding Tommy, basically.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't sure what he'd do if they met again. Because we see it in the Drista stream, where Tubbo sees Tommy but thinks that he's a hallucination. And he's just not quite sure what to say to him. And also when they actually do meet again and he's with Technoblade, again, Tubbo just isn't sure what to do because he wasn't expecting to see Tommy because he's been avoiding him.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know what to say.
Yeah.
It's avoiding the issue.
Which is... Yeah. Which really doesn't help the situation. Because Tubbo thinks that Tommy doesn't want to see him, so Tubbo avoids him. Tommy thinks that Tubbo hates him and isn't friends with him anymore now, and so Tommy wants to see Tubbo, but he thinks that Tubbo hates him. So like,
he doesn't.
In the process of Tubbo being like, I don't want to upset Tommy, he's upsetting Tommy just in a different way than he thought. Yeah. And it's just not a good situation overall.
Yeah. Those are
Tommy and Tubbo are good friends, but there is a communication issue there and a
power imbalance.
It's unbalanced relationship.
Like, they're such good friends. So it's like, no, this is like the thing. Is that with people projecting, like, content creator dynamics onto the characters?
Yeah, that
like when they project writer Tommy and writer Wilbur's relationship onto their characters.
Yep. Or like Technoblade's relationship with Tommy.
They project, like, we all know that, like, writer Dream and writer Tommy are like really great friends that really get along and talk to each other a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously they're working on a lot of the story together. Their characters do not get on at all, and pretty much never have, right from the start of when Tommy originally joined the Dream Esme. Because, like I said earlier, that's like half of his whole persona is find the most popular person on the server,
and piss them off,
be their enemy.
Yeah, cause problems on purpose.
I'm gonna cause so many problems on
like
purpose.
A big part of his content.
Yeah, and that's just how his content works. And then I don't know. I will say one thing, though, is that I do think now Tommy and Tubbo's characters' relationships have, like, that dynamic has shifted a bit to be a bit more equal, but it's also come
especially with
distance.
Rambo, because, like, I think a lot of people have an issue with the idea of bench trio in the fact that they all have individual relationships with each other, but haven't really done much.
Yeah, their
in,
group
like,
relationship.
As an actual trio. Like, Tommy and Tubbo are friends. And Tubbo and Ranboo are friends. And Ranboo and Tommy are friends.
Yeah.
And obviously the content creators are friends as a trio, which is going to influence how people interpret
but the characters. Like, I just never understood
the characters,
it.
Like, I think the only time they've worked together as, like, a trio was for the whole breaking into prison to kill Dream thing. Yeah. And even then, I'm pretty sure Ranboo was only there because Tubbo brought him along.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't have group interactions, so I've never understood why they called bench trio. Like, they each individually sat on the bench with one another once. Like, Dream has more, it's so funny because C-Dream has more right to the bench trio name than Ranboo
the name
does.
Bench trio. That's now the name for Tubbo, Dream, and Tommy. You gotta find a new name for each trio. Like, call them, like, Vlog Trio or something.
Yo! But yeah, I do feel people really tend to exaggerate the whole bench trio dynamic, and I'll be honest, their group interaction is not very friendly because Tommy is incredibly jealous of Ranboo.
I had a whole theory for
Tubbo's
a while
relationship.
that they were setting up, like, and I kind of still have it. They're setting up an antagonistic relationship between Ranboo and Tommy.
I can see that.
Because obviously there's the whole thing with Ranboo working with Dream, which obviously Tommy's gonna have a negative reaction to. But also the fact that despite the fact that they were quite friendly when Ranboo first joined the SMP, they didn't really talk for ages.
Yeah.
And now you've got Ranboo working with a Wilbur. Who's Tommy is kind of like reluctantly working with a bit. but also not really on with him. You know?
So like in character, bench view isn't a thing. Tommy was jealous of
like individually,
they're friends.
Yeah,
individually.
They're just not. It's
not a group. Like Tommy was incredibly jealous of Rambo and Tubbo's relationship, and he threatened to kill Michael because of it. And even though later on he starts getting along with Rambo again, you can tell he's like still has jealousy issues, because when Tubbo's not with him, he's still very jealous.
Yeah.
Did he get those jealousy issues from Wilbur in the Void?
I mean, Tommy's always like weirdly insecure when you think about it.
He is.
Because I feel like he yells about how like he's, I don't know,
I'm
it's
a
so weird.
big man.
He's very insecure. And maybe it's just because he's like more insecure with his relationship with Tubbo after L'Manberg, because he was, or after Exile, I should say, because that was a big moment in their friendship that almost completely broke it. And then he comes back and there's still some distance between them. They almost die. And then he finds out after he gets locked up in prison that Tubbo has gotten this, like, I don't think he was too aware of his friendship. Yeah. I don't think he was too aware of, like, Tubbo and Rambu's friendship before that. But then after he got out of prison, their relationship had, like, skyrocketed closer while he was gone. Like, they became, like, best friends. Like, they got married. They have a child. But either way, like, Tommy just, like, left and then came back after... already having
a terrible
had, like, this
week.
Major break in their friendship.
And month.
And then he comes back and he's like, he feels like he's been replaced. Not only is he dealing with this new trauma, but
like,
he feels
you never
like...
married me.
he feels like he's been replaced. And so there's this giant insecurity for him with his relationship with Tubbo, which means that he is automatically hostile towards Ranbu.
Yeah.
And it's only over time that those two have gotten along somewhat more. Like, there's still some weird elements, but he definitely, like...
Rambo has managed to convince him that, hey, you like me. I am this unobtrusive, inoffensive logo that you must enjoy because I appeal to every single demographic.
Are you just quoting Lemon Demon songs now?
Okay, but that's literally his
but actually, like, okay, so this is a bit of a tangent, but just like the whole, like, B-Duo marriage, like, I didn't really get why people were freaking out about them implying that it was romantic, because, like, come on, they're just two guys who decided, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we shipped our Minecraft OCs together? And why don't we say that our Minecraft OCs are married and they have a kid?
Yeah, it's... Tommy and Toa's relationship has been very hectic. I think going forward, I don't know, because I don't know how much Tommy's gonna get in. Like, I feel like Tommy, maybe this is our, like, move to our predictions for what's gonna come forward. I'm pretty sure Ranbu and Tubbo's relationship is gonna get a bit hectic. I don't think it's gonna break off, because I think that Ranbu isn't in this to give us that kind of angst. Because I'm pretty sure he even him or Tubbo, like, confirmed there was not going to be a divorce arc. So they might have some problems, but it's not going to be that bad. So I think there's going to be some tension there between the two of them, with Ranbu trying to do, like, not... Like, Ranbu wants Tubbo to be happy, and I think Rambu's going to be a little insecure about the fact that he thinks now that he wasn't able to make Tubbo happy before. So I think there's going to be some issues there. I think Tommy's probably going to have some issues with Ranbu working with Wilbur, either because he feels like he's being replaced or because he thinks that Wilbur's a threat to Ranbu and he doesn't want his friend to get hurt. Probably a mixture of both.
Yep.
And then maybe Tubbo and Tommy are going to get closer together again because of that, or maybe Tommy's just going to do his best to stay out of it, or maybe Tommy's going to start problems altogether. It's hard to say.
Or he's going to have a third hamburger joint.
He's going to start his own.
Like, really quick, because I think we're a bit over time. I'm going to use this to conclude because I think it's funny. There is actually somebody on Tumblr with an AU called the Tom Burger AU, which is basically where Wilbur decides just to completely, like, he breaks Dream out of prison and they start their own restaurant together, but because neither of them could cook, they end up serving food to all the pets of the Dream SMP rather than the people. and they become more popular than everyone else's restaurants. And also, a dream besides he wants to be the sexy waiter, and Tommy has to bat Wilbur off with a
rolled up
wrapped up newspaper because he keeps flirting with his waiter. And that is how we are finishing this episode.
That is how we are finishing this episode. Beautiful.
Nothing like a good old AU. All right then.
And that concludes our thoughts on L'Manberg, Wilbur's relationship with L'Manberg, and how it affected the country and its citizens as a result. Thoughts on this cleaning duo as well. See you!
Well, thanks for listening to the 18th episode of Mellohi, and we hope you enjoyed it. If there's any topic you'd like to hear us discuss, feel free to leave a comment or find us on Twitter at Mellohi Podcast, where you can also ask us questions or just get updates about new episodes. See you next time!